What's up, everybody? Nick Powills, publisher of 1851franchise.com. If you're live on the site, click the supplier database tab and you can find more stories like this. Today, we're talking with HelloCMO. Dianna, thank you for joining us. Would love for you to frame your story as it relates to how you accidentally fell into franchising, and then we're going to talk about business.
Like everybody did. Everyone accidentally fell into franchising.
That's right.
Sure. So I guess actually it was back in 2015 or 2016, I think it might have been. I actually applied to manage a digital marketing agency that turned out to be sort of specifically for franchise development. It was interesting because I went in there and had no idea about this world, and also didn't really even understand what they did for about 30 days or so until I went through the process myself. But ended up working in that agency for about 4 or 5 years, and then ended up creating HelloCMO, which is an outsourced chief marketing officer agency. It's also a digital marketing agency in general, but primarily outsourced CMO, which is what I do now.
So as your progression goes to getting into this side of the business, what's the motivator behind HelloCMO?
I'm glad that you actually asked that. So, and I'm going to answer this really transparently with a very unpopular answer. I decided I hated franchising. So I got into this agency and just thought everything's out of date. Nobody's doing anything. Nobody's doing any marketing that is up to date. That is, they might be doing digital marketing, but they're not using AI. They're not looking ahead. You know, the websites to me felt really dated. And I was kind of getting into this, starting to meet, quite frankly, franchisors that I thought were doing what was called a pump and dump, where they would just bring on as many franchisees as possible and not really care about them or support them once they had done that. And so I had it in my head that, I'm just like, I don't like franchising. Like, this is just not where I belong. I'm a modern day marketer. I love beautiful design. I want things to look $1 million. And I don't want to work with companies that are, not taking care of their franchisees. So it was a friend of mine that I was working with who just said, you don't hate franchising. You're just in the wrong spot. He said, what you want is to be helping franchisees. So you want to work with franchisors that really value their franchisees and take care of them when they bring them on board. And have a fantastic system in place. And you also want to get your hands dirty with helping franchisees. So that's actually the reason that I ended up starting HelloCMO, because I got a few phone calls saying, would you be our CMO? And the answer was always no, until I put these two conversations together and realized, actually, I probably do need to be a franchisor's CMO.
Yeah. All right, so many things I love about that. I'm gonna say some comments, and we'll just make it into a conversation. So, I think all of franchising is pump and dump, and at the same time, there's very few companies that defend the franchisee. Mm-hmm. So these franchisees, which, like, if we go back in time, snake oil, and franchising isn't like that per se. But there's nobody that's taking the time to say, let's give you the scaffolding or the training wheels before you buy a franchise. And we could go, you and I could go to any franchisor's website right now. It says, buy my business. It's mm-hmm. like, sure. But if you and I go back to the day before we landed in franchising and said, did we understand what it was? The answer is no. And we're sophisticated individuals. And so that's part of my challenge. I'm with you. There's been moments where I'll tell you transparently why I've hated franchising is I think it's built within the supplier network. It's built of bullying, and I hate that. And there's a lack of transparency. And so those two things have caused me to get to these pain points where I'm like, do I really want to do this anymore? And then the answer is always yes, because I think I can make a difference and hopefully help change someone's life. So all the things that you say totally resonate with me. And then on the marketing side, I agree. I think franchising is like 10 years behind everything else.
Mm-hmm.
But like the two things that I hyper focus in on, like if I take social media, which social media is dead. I don't know that it ever comes back. But the term was social media, and everybody went media, 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 and everybody left off the part which is social. So if I went into a bar and said, "Hey, franchising's awesome," you'd be like, "What?" If I said, "Hey, what do you do for a living?" Like it's
Totally.
much different, right? And then on the content marketing side, we just did exactly the same thing. Like the blogs, it's like content. It's like, no, we got to do the marketing side. Like if we write something that is thoughtful and meaningful, then we have to put the juice behind it to get it in front of the right audience, because there's so much news and press and everything else out there. So everything you said connects with me. How do, like what I'm saying, how does this relate into where your vision is going and what you're doing now?
First of all, I just want to say how refreshing it is to have somebody come back and say, I totally get what you're saying, because, I'm either speaking to people who love the franchising space. I worked with people that were actually quite obsessed with franchise development, and they would get offended if I'd say, I can't stand franchising. But I would always say, but that's my superpower. My superpower is that I'm working in it. I don't love it, but I'm trying to constantly push it to a place where I want it to be. So it's actually my superpower that I'm not running around going, this is the best industry ever. We can, why would you not want to work here? So it is really refreshing to have that response, because I think that when we acknowledge that and we're transparent about it, then we can do something about it to build it back up again. I think in terms of my goals where I am now, there was a time there was actually that gap there when I transitioned over into HelloCMO, where I thought I would just leave franchising. It's like, I want to make sexy websites. I want to make everything look beautiful, as I said before. And there's a chance that people just aren't going to let me do that in this business. And that is somewhat true. I do get clients that are very scared to step outside of the box. They see polished content as actually not that good sometimes. And I'm just like, well, I guess that's subjective. And that's fair enough. But, I think you just have to find the right people. I'm Chief Marketing Officer for Earthwise Pet. And, they are just, I found my people there. They're just like, go for it. You're the artist, you're the creator, go for it. And as long as you don't break the law, then we're good. Like, do what you need to do to help our franchisees, to give them the tools to make us look better. And look, it's a big, that is a big company now. It's a very big company. And so I'm not able to achieve that overnight, but little bit by little bit, I'm still just sort of starting, but little bit I will get there. But I think my ultimate goal really is to actually stay small, believe it or not. I have other business ventures that I don't need HelloCMO to be a conglomerate of the franchise development industry. It's just not what I'm looking to do. My goal really is just to work with a small key group of people that get it, that let me be creative, quite frankly, and that I let them do their thing as well. There's that old saying, hire someone that is really good at their job and then leave them alone. Mm-hmm. And that goes both ways. It's just like, the client needs to be brilliant at what they do, and the franchisor needs to be brilliant at what they do. And I need to be brilliant at what I do. And that means leaving each other alone. It's like setting the objective and then saying, go, and we'll meet you back here. I think that, I want those type of relationships with my clients. I am lucky enough to have those. And I'm hoping that doesn't change. But that is my goal, is to keep it this tiny little niche of people that I work with that make me happy every day, that don't make me lose sleep at night over stupid things that everyone will forget about in 12 months time. And just make franchising look good, make those particular companies look like $1 million, and support them in being able to support the franchisee a lot better in future as well. So yeah, but believe it or not, the goals are not to be big. The goal is actually to be small.
So two comments off of that. One is the $1 million website. I love that, and here's why. If I were to go, we'll go as big as a Tesla or as simple as a Kia. No matter what, I can go to Kia's website right now, and it still will make me feel like if I step into a Kia, I'm going to feel like $1 million. If I go into a Tesla, it better make me feel like $100,000. Better make me feel like I bought something that's $100,000. So I park this over to the side, and now I go over to franchising. And we'll take a franchise brand that is a $2 million investment and one that's a $100,000 investment. So arguably $100,000 means you're still going to have to pour your life savings into it. You're not going to be able to finance it like a Tesla. Like a Tesla, if you finance it, you're going to pay for 3 years, turn in the keys, and you're done. A franchise, like you're actually going to have to invest in it. Now, if we take either the $2 million investment franchise or the $100,000 investment franchise, and we put their sites next to each other, they probably look very similar. And so now we're asking someone to take arguably the biggest risk of their career by investing their life savings into a business they have little to no control over, yet we're unwilling to make the brand feel like $1 million. And it's always surprised me, because if we really want to grow as a brand, then that's a gap. Now, in my opinion, this is why private equity is like hawks on franchising, because they're like, look at all these brands that are unwilling to put the foundation pieces in place. Yes, we'll offer them a crazy multiple. We'll scoop them up. We'll put the foundation in place, and we'll make a lot more money than they did. And so it's so easy. Like franchise brands are a tremendous target because you have founders that like get used to their lifestyle and don't invest in things. And so that creates some of the gap. Now, last thing I'll say, I totally agree on build people who are brilliant and let them go do things. I will say a challenge that we have faced in our company: hire someone, say they're brilliant, I go away, do my thing. They are supposed to go away, do their thing. We come back in the middle. I'm like, okay, I did my thing. They're like, oh yeah, I work too much. I'm too busy. And so that's I think that's the hardest part of the workforce, which obviously being independent and in control of the way that you've structured it, like, you know when you're going to bust your ass. Like you have the foundational down. Any comments on that?
That's just staffing. That's just staffing in general, isn't it? Yeah. And I guess that's the difference, I guess, when you know, and I think that's why I want to keep it small as well, is because the quality does get watered down. The person who owns the business is always going to care more. You know, even though you have, and I know that you do, Nick, because I've dealt with many of your employees and they're all fabulous. But at the end of the day, you know, the person who is establishing this and founding this and got their heart in it, you know, they're probably going to do a better job if they have the time to be out, or the capacity to scale and take care of each of those clients. So yeah, we all have to deal with that. And I love your comments about the automotive sites as well. Like I love automotive sites. Like any serious automotive company has just got that dialed in. And it's strange that we're just not scared to take inspiration from these other industries. It's just like, why not copy an automotive site for your franchise development? But another thing that kind of when you were mentioning like investing in that infrastructure and making things look beautiful, making the franchisee feel like they're going to get quality for whatever they might be paying or investing. On top of that, there's also a little bit of negligence going on with some franchisors, not all of them, but some franchisors when it comes to investing in consumer marketing. So they'll actually be pumping tons of money. I've had both problems. You're not pumping enough into franchise development in order to help you achieve your goals. But I've also had the scenario where they're pumping everything into consumer, not paying any attention to, or, you know, giving me resources. And that's okay if you've got a really strong brand and a really strong product. And when you do that, it in turn helps franchise development. So I'm actually going to give a direct example. So I was working with friend Marco's Pizza, and their team over there. I think they've had a complete team restructure, but the team that I was working with were just wonderful group of people. They went in really hard on TV advertising. And I know they got a lot of pushback from franchisees who possibly didn't want to put in the extra funds or whatever the case may be. But when that TV advertising for the consumer side of marketing took off, so did our franchise development. It got to a point where they weren't actually even investing that much, from ad spend, and they were benefiting from that consumer marketing, and so were their franchisees. So there's that finding that fine balance. It's like once you get to a certain size in franchising, you need to find that balance. If there is a call for your product, and you know that if you put money into consumer marketing, that will in turn help your franchisees, your existing franchisees, and then bring more people to the franchise development site and that prospect in general. And we all know that's the number one way to sell franchises is to make your franchisees profitable. Mm-hmm. Really, at the end of the day, isn't it? They're making money. You're going to sell franchises.
Well, in the Marco's example, what also happened, and it's much easier in food than it is, say, a man in a van type 100%. Business. But what happened is you lift up the consumer awareness that does two things. One, it educates consumers that this is a great business, and it gets them excited about it, mm-hmm. which that creates a fear of missing out. Fear of missing out drives them to the franchise site. Franchise site drives them to inquire.
Yeah,
it obviously drives the franchise sales as well, but it also educates. And I've always felt this, like the first thing you have to do to a franchisee when you're selling the business opportunities, you got to show that you actually know as the franchisor how to market your business. Now, the swing that I think misses in franchising is, unfortunately, on the whole other side, a franchisor, CEO looks at franchising and says the return of me selling a franchise is the franchise fee. And that is inaccurate. The franchise fee is to get your franchisee up and running. Mm-hmm. You're gonna make money off the royalty. And so I've always encouraged the CEO to say, take a look back. Just take 3 years sales. I don't need you saying like scale or multiples or anything else. 3 years of royalty. Mm-hmm. Take that number and then say, let's say it's $60,000. Let's say it's $100,000. Are you willing to spend a third of that to go acquire a franchisee? And when they hear that number, they're like, that's crazy. I'm like, yeah, that's the cost of doing business. And frankly, that's what the broker network has done that for them. Like they're taking the money anyway. So yeah, I love what you're saying. Like, I feel that at some point consumer and franchise got separated, but it's so similar. It got separated because typically the CMO and the CDO don't see eye to eye on the way to market things, So, and obviously you're bridging that in your viewpoint because you know both sides.
Yeah, absolutely. And don't get me wrong. I mean, digital marketing, for example, it's remarkably different. You can't get a consumer. Well, I'm not saying you can't, but it's difficult to get a consumer marketing team and just say, hey, start franchise development marketing. They generally don't know what they're doing. So it is a specialty, but it just shouldn't be, as I said before, it shouldn't be falling into that bucket of the outdated industry. It's like, make it as sexy as the rest of the brand, make everything sexy. And people pay attention to numbers. And at the end of the day, if your franchisees are successful, then people are going to want to buy into that concept. But there's also, people very often dismiss emotions and how we make them feel. Apple is a brilliant brand for making people feel things. There are tons of big brands out there. Lululemon makes people feel things. Nike makes people feel things. And it's just like, we miss that in franchise development. We miss this emotional making people feel things. Like I do franchise development video production and, I'm not out there trying to create, a Hollywood production or anything like that. I'm just trying to get people's stories across, and not just storytelling, because we always talk about storytelling as well. But those videos need to actually connect. So there's a thing that I do in my videos where I do portrait, zoom ins on people just to make sure that people know this is a people business. It's the people you're partnering with. It's not a piece of paper. And the marketing and franchise development very, very often forgets that we still need to make these people feel things. And I've even had, executives say, oh no, but you're dealing with when we're talking about large scale investments, they'll say, oh no, but you're dealing with large scale investors here. They're multi-million-dollar investors. And my question is, so they don't feel things? Mm-hmm. Like that is just incorrect. It's just like you can make anyone in a room feel a certain way by the way that you market and you communicate to them. I don't care if they've got $20 in the bank or $10 billion in the bank.
I mean, I agree with you. I think it's a naive statement. I would even argue that the larger investor feels more, because when you start playing the game, now you're worried about, it's not, even though you have plenty of money, you still have concerns about when is the sky going to fall? Like, mm-hmm. even if you have all the confidence in the world. So, but I've always said this, that the brands don't sell brands, people do. And that's period. In franchising, it's so much more critical because you're choosing to let all these human beings buy into your business and go represent you.
100%.
And so when you put brand front and center, you're skipping the most valuable asset, which is human beings that were willing to say, I champion your brand, which is so magical.
Yep.
So
Absolutely.
I obviously we're very aligned in the thought process. If I'm breaking out, say there's a ghost franchisor that's watching this, if I'm trying to define what you're looking for and you want someone to reach out, you have to have the mindset, and you have to have the financial comfort to invest, even though it's going to get you a return into your business. And you got to be willing not to be the smartest person in the room. What else do you want them to know about you before reaching out to you to know about your business?
I think that the other thing is that I'm primarily in digital marketing, and I'm booked out with a waiting list, which I'm very thankful for when it comes to the outsourced CMO role. But I do still help out with franchise development marketing. I think the biggest thing is just I do want a partner. I become very close with my clients to a point where people have even overheard conversations and just went, you get way too close to your clients. But it is how they do become my friends. And I think that, people might think that there's a bit of BS behind that as well. There's just not. I have a relationship with almost every client that I have ever worked with. I still have a personal relationship with. I still, I send them birthday messages, whatever the case may be, or I just reach out. I think that I'm not really looking for that static relationship. I think the other thing, going back to the digital comment, I do primarily focus on digital marketing. I can come up with other concepts and ideas and strategize and consult. I do a lot of free consulting for franchisors that just don't know what to do and don't know where to put their money, and they might be starting out. I don't think I'm for a brand new franchisor, mostly because, like anybody sort of under the 25 to 30 unit mark, mostly because I don't believe digital marketing really works for those brands. That's my personal belief. I'm sure there are digital marketers out there that have managed to do it before and do it really well. I feel personally like I would be taking their money.
Yeah.
Because I have personally discovered that I am not very good at marketing those smaller brands on the digital marketing platforms. And so as a result, I would rather say, you know what, here's a list of things you need to do before you come to me. So
I'm going to give you one counter on that, because I bet you're actually skilled at it. So we worked with a bank for a long time. And what we did is we built out attribution scoring. So and HubSpot's a genius tool for this.
Oh yeah.
So basically we could say, here's how much time they stayed in the funnel. So we used technology and data to come up with, it was 5 quarters, that if I got in front of you today, 5 quarters from now, a year and 3 months, you're going to fill out a form on the website. It also allowed us to understand where were they at in the engagement process based on how are they reading content and how are they interacting with their website.
Sure.
The problem for an emerging brand is this. Beginning of last year, we started asking all the franchisees we work with, how much time does it take from impression to inquiry? And right now, on average, it's 6.4 months, and it hasn't moved. The dial stays the same. Under $250,000, it's faster. Over, it's longer. And so to emerging brand, I bet you everything you're doing is correct. The problem is most brands in digital marketing look at last click.
Oh, 100%.
Everything that you've done, you've given them lift. And sometimes lift takes 6.4 months. So you could go spend $100,000 of an emerging brand today, and they're like, we got nothing. And then 6.4 months from now, they're like, oh, we got something. So I think that's 100%. Where you know what you're doing. It's just, you're going to get criticized for 6.4 months that it's not working until it does.
Yeah, no, you're absolutely right. And I agree with you on that. It's more just they usually come to you with an investment range and goals that are attached to that budget. And that's where the problem is. We're not going to hit that. And you're absolutely right, Nick. Every single thing that you do in marketing is a touch point, even if they convert in 2 years' time. It's still a retarget opportunity for 12 months' time. And don't get me wrong, I'm not putting a blanket statement on new franchisors because they might be in a really hot industry where we know we can bring traffic in. So I evaluate every client individually. I have had some clients come to me recently with only 10 locations, but I've looked up their industry and it's a hot market. Like it's not saturated and people are searching for it. So, yeah, there's no cookie cutter situation with that. But I would definitely say that if people are expecting those numbers, as we know, everybody does the metrics, they're always looking for those lead numbers. If you're looking for it right out of the gate, then you might want to put a few things in place before digital. Or expect that you're going to be investing for a little while, just establishing your awareness. I agree.
Yeah,
100%.
yeah, ultimately the business model is what people buy from. The tactics that you and I can do for a brand will drive people there. But if it's a pig, we're not going to put lipstick on it. And I think that's what drives me nuts when we would get clients to say, where are my leads? It's like, no. Where are your people that are going to go fix your business because your business is broken? They're like, my business isn't broken. My business is great. Why can that brand grow? Because their franchisees make money. It's not that hard. So, I mean, that's the issue. But, well,
as you just said, their franchisees make money.
Yeah, that's it. That's the magic. Well, I love this conversation. Obviously, if someone's watched this and they've connected with our conversation, I hope they reach out to you. But thanks for doing this. Thanks for sharing a little bit of your story.
Oh, thanks so much, Nick. I appreciate you having me on, and great respect to you guys with everything that you do. So I appreciate you chatting with me.
Love it. For Dianna, I'm Nick. This is another episode of Meet the Supplier.